Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Rev. And we got a lot to talk about. But before we begin on our budget and city associated thing, I'm going to give everybody a test. Today is Friday. You know what the date is?
Yes, I do.
And you know what today is?
Yes, I do.
It is D-Day. The 6th of June. It is a day that we should all remember. The sacrifices that yeah, you're right, Emily. Make Democrats irrelevant. That's a good starting statement. But let's remember what today signifies. It's very, very special to me because virtually everyone on both sides of my family fought in World War II. And they were all first-generation Americans. So they fought for their country as first-generation Americans. They put their lives on the line. And it is noteworthy because they were fighting for us to have the freedoms that we have, to be able to say what we want to say, not to be called Nazis and things like this. So this is a very special like I said, it's very special to me because the only military age member of my family on either side of my family that didn't fight in World War II, that was a male, was a relative who had leukemia. Everyone else served in both theaters. I had, on my mother's side, I had one serve in the Navy in the Pacific, another served as a Marine and got wounded in Saipan in the Pacific Theater. My father and his brother both served in Germany. His brother was a B-29 navigator. He got shot down and had to ditch in the English Channel. My father fought throughout Europe in the Battle of the Bulge from the beginning to the end of the war. So this has special significance to me. I also had an uncle on my mother's side that was a paratrooper like me. So I got a couple of statistics to remind everybody what these men put on the line. There were 13,100 paratroopers dropped on the evening before the troops landed on the beach from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. With 3,900 glider troops that also came in. They didn't jump in, but they came in via glider behind enemy lines, almost 4,000. And for the men who stormed the beaches, 2,811 were killed in action on the beaches of Normandy in the first day. 13,564 were wounded. 5,665 were missing and never found. 79 were captured. During the entire war, we had 291,557 killed in action, and a total of civilians and other ancillary casualties that, because of bombings, etc., that were killed. It was 420,000 American lives. So every time we talk about this stuff, and we talk about these pathetic excuses we have for politicians who are more worried about illegals than veterans, than Americans and American workers. You can tell why I get a little angry once in a while. We still have about 22 veterans a day committing suicide. We still have veterans living in the street. And we still have an entire Boston delegation of state representatives that voted against housing preferences for veterans. And with that, I'll close, because that is the coup de grace. These politicians do not deserve to have a title of a representative. They do not represent Americans. They spend far too much time representing everybody but Americans. But this is the whole thing. And Athens in Tennessee. I really can't. I can't, unless it had a name. Yeah, well, World War II was my father's war. I had another war, but the Americans have fought throughout history. Actually, you know what the war that we lost the second greatest amount of people was, CJ?
What was it?
The Civil War.
Yeah. I was going to say that. I was going to say that, but I thought that was too easy.
No, it's true. That's ironic, because Americans were killing Americans, and even though the Confederate States did not consider themselves part of America at the time they seceded, but they were still Americans. We lost over 200,000 in a Civil War because it was Americans killing Americans, and that was a travesty. Yeah, no, they are Marxists. They're worse than Marxists. I mean, these people don't care about anything except their globalist ideas. And with that, we'll shift back to why our budget in our city doesn't care. As I said, just remember, when you run into your state rep, ask them why they did not vote for a housing preference for veterans, because they didn't. Alan Sylvia tried to lie his way out, but we got him. We showed the record of the vote. And the irony is, he's a veteran, as was Schmid, but he's gone now. But let's get back to the little, the stuff on the budget and the other thing. And also, I think maybe, CJ, you told me something that's pretty interesting. That'll be very interesting to our viewers. Kenny Fiola is now going into another enterprise.
Well, before we go there, I want to extend my condolences to Ricky Tith and his family. Ricky, in Buddhist tradition, shaved his head today and went to the monastery. He said that that's good for his karma, and he did it for the deceased members of his family. I guess today and tomorrow are the funeral services, whatever that may be for Buddhists. I'm not familiar. But I want to extend my sympathies and condolences to he and his family. Now, as for Ken Fiola, the Cherry and Webb building, which Ken Fiola sits in, was listed for sale for $1.9 million. There is an agreement to purchase the building, providing, it appears, that the zoning board grants them variances, including parking requirements. Imagine that. Downtown Fall River. We don't have any parking there now. You want to put in 72 units with no parking. You know what that's going to be like? Especially during the winter? The ZBA better get its head out of its ass and realize they have to enforce parking. Like it or not, these developers need to suck it up.
Wow. Well, I gotta interject something. I gotta thank Annalise for talking about the bat. You know me, I have a compulsion to check everything and research everything. And I really wasn't aware of this. This is, I'm big into military history, but this is technically not military, but it's pseudo-military. I'm going to read you what I just pulled up. The Battle of Athens in 1946 was a rebellion by local citizens, including World War II veterans, against corrupt local government in McKinn County, Tennessee. The citizens sought to end political corruption and voter intimidation, ultimately leading to the disbandment of the corrupt government and establishment of a new one. Well, in 1946, we had World War II veterans who came from the greatest generation who did what the Declaration of Independence said. They had a corrupt government and replace it. Annalise, thank you for that. And let's the people in Fall River take a lesson from them. Let's replace this corrupt government. Kenny Fiola, as soon as he wasn't attached to a political entity like Fall River, he was going bankrupt. You remember that one?
Yes, I do.
He was in the toilet. Then he attached himself and he's making money. But I guess he's not making enough money in a Cherry and Webb building. So now, isn't that kind of a... Does his wife have to now divorce herself from everything that has to do with market rate housing and HTIP? Because he's going to get all this crap. We know that.
He's not going to. If the Zoning Board of Appeal approves the variance and waives the parking requirements, they will sell the building for almost $2 million. And then Ken Fiola will have nothing to do with it. Supposedly, the building is currently 63% occupied. I don't know by whom, but it's supposedly 63% occupied.
Yeah, well, so you don't think, since he's been basically in charge of all the market rate housing pushing, that he didn't make a sweetheart deal for that property, right?
Of course he did.
Okay, now I believe in Tinkerbell and the Tooth Fairy again. It's nice to be totally clueless and believe this crap. Yeah, this is. I mean, the whole city is just run by this cabal. Look at this budget, and I'm very disturbed by the article by Joe, who once was a reporter, good, that basically said that the problem with the budget was the health care and the
no, the city doesn't pay for Ken Fiola's insurance.
No, he doesn't pay. No, we don't pay for his insurance. He goes through his wife. Goes through his wife.
He's got that crappy GIC.
Yeah, he goes through his wife as a state rep. We don't pay for his insurance, thankfully. But we had the lowest insurance increase. The problem with the city is, and they've said it numerous times, they spend all their money and they ran out of money. We've got plenty of money in the employee side because we actually didn't spend our money. They don't do that. They do not adhere to their fiduciary responsibility. But I'm very disturbed about, according to that article, it was about the health care and that retirement and all this other stuff, which is not true. The health care was the lowest increase one of the lowest increases in the state. We went up 8.5%. Diamond Vocational School went up 36%. The state average was 15% to 50%, and some in excess of 50%. So I know those numbers off the top of my head because I look at them all the time. And I can tell you, we've got plenty of money to defray at, and we are still running. They're saying we're running over budget. No, we're not. We're just about on a bubble. But we've run under budget for 30 years. Well, that's why we've got $9 million in our trust fund. And they have nothing because they spend their money. It's their lack of fiduciary responsibility. Yeah, she is. To my knowledge, she's still selling real estate. I don't know, CJ. She was a real estate agent.
As far as I know, she still has an active
license. As far as I know. And I mean, well, let's do it this way. We always cover ourselves. If we're not 100%, she's allegedly still a real estate agent. But let's get back to the budget. What's upsetting me about the budget is the fact that what they should be upset about is $600,000 in pay raises. $600,000 in pay raises. One individual got a $33,000 pay raise. I wasn't stuttering. I didn't mix up the numbers. I'm not looking at them. $33,000 pay raise. The average per capita individual median income in the city of Fall River, and you can look it up on your phones right now, at the there'll be some conflicts, but I always use the United States Census Bureau statistics. According to the United States Census Bureau statistics, the average median income per capita by an individual in Fall River is $31,998. So this guy got a $1,002 increase more than the annual salary, the annual gross income of the average per capita person in the city of Fall River. Are you people nuts? We've got $18,000 pay raises, $15,000 pay raises. And I talked to a counselor earlier today. She was saying, well, Seth Akins, who already proved how corrupt he is, kept saying we can't get anybody decent to work unless we pay them really good. Well, we pay them really good and they suck anyway.
That's right.
We can't get anybody good to work in his city anyway. So you know what I told them? What I've been telling them for years. You want to pay Boston, you want to get Boston pays, you want to get Los Angeles salaries, go work there. This market won't bear it. What the city of Fall River should have been doing for years, and I've said this numerous times and they never do it, what they should be looking for is retired private sector people who are really sharp at what they did, who are kind of bored, they're kind of semi-retired, and they're really good at what they do. And you know what they should do? Hire them. Hire a guy for 20 hours a week and another guy for 20 hours a week, and you got a 40-hour work week, and you got two people who are really sharp at what they do. And if you pay them $50,000 a year apiece and you don't give them health care, they don't have any sick leave, don't have it, they're working on a site, and they're really top shelf at what they do, and they'll enjoy doing it because it'll keep their finger in something they're really happy with and not be bored to death retired. That's is the way you do it.
That's what nurses do. Nurses retire.
Yeah.
And many of them take jobs either as volunteers or as part-time nurses for summer camps, for school nurses, in health clinics, for the American Red Cross. They do that. And it's part-time.
Yeah, you're right. It's a private sector. But yeah, no, you're right, CJ. And I'll tell you, you know who actually did this? And it was a long time ago, but unfortunately for them, I have a really good memory for crap like this and what I want to remember, which is not whether they ever tell the truth. But remember when Ronald Reagan was in, and Ronald Reagan did a lot to create this part-time work. Well, I remember a stat I read many years ago, and it was that when Ronald Reagan got in, the largest profit-making bank in the United States that had made, I don't know how many billions of dollars, they laid off 75% of their full-time employees and hired part-timers so they wouldn't have to pay benefits, and they made more money. But why doesn't the city, like you said, like nurses do? We got a lot of people that have been doing this on a very high level for very big corporations. And it's like, you tell a guy, hey, you want to come and work in Fall River for a little while? You know, these guys are sharp as a tack. You say, okay, I'm not going to get bored. You're not going to work me to death. No, you're going to work 20 hours a week, and we got another guy for 20 hours. You don't get any holidays or vacation pays, or we don't provide you with health care. You're retired. Come in and do a gig. And we get top quality people who actually worked in private industry where you actually have to know what the hell you're doing.
From your mouth to the asshole's ear.
Yeah. But they'll never do that. You know why? They can't give their friends jobs.
Right.
You can't give your pal who can't get a job anywhere a job. You can't give your IT guy a $33,000 raise and say, well, if you don't do that, he won't work here. Well, didn't we just get hacked?
That's right. And I was just going to bring that up. Remember, the systems, the infrastructure for the city and the school department appear or are allegedly the same. And they hacked the school department that they paid $200,000. $200,000 for. Now they want to give the city side MIS operators a $33,000 pay raise. Guess what? I got a guy on Plymouth Avenue that'll do it for half that cost.
And better.
Yeah, and do the job better.
Well, yeah, we got
a
guy.
I hate saying this because it seems so inappropriate and so unacceptable, but who's getting fellatio out of this thing?
Well, I can tell you one thing. That the problem with government is simple. This is why, Musk and Trump are having a war. Musk got frustrated because he actually came to the realization that while Trump can put a Band-Aid on it, as soon as he's gone, even the people that are in there and supposed to be in his party, they will never get rid of this entrenched spending to a degree.
No.
You might put a dent in it, but they're making too much. Their friends are doing too well. You can't do this. 33,000. Look, the last course I took up the Cape at the seminar was a cybersecurity by a company that provides cybersecurity for municipalities and large corporations. And I'll tell you what, I've seen a few of them before, but this was quite the. What these people do is amazing. They 24/7 scour the dark web for any information about your municipality or your business. They gave some examples. It was really amazing. Now, you think the city would hire these people? They're dealing with big corporations and municipalities, and you get 24-hour. Every single day, they scrub everything you got on every computer and check it. You think you get that kind of service from these people we got who have got an office in there and they spend time slapping each other on the back and walking around? No. But they would never get a company like this because they're going to do the job because they're going to get paid to do a job and they're going to do it. They're not going to be in our retirement system. They're going to do a good job because if they don't, they're going to get fired. But heaven forbid something like our cybersecurity would go out. And I actually told somebody from the city, if you want this company's name, I have it. Yeah, we can't get an audit, even though they want an audit. Look, we couldn't get judges. We couldn't get term limits. They always find a way. Politicians always find a way around it. I mean, even to the point, talk about rubbing it in your face. You and I, unfortunately, are old enough to remember the Halloween massacre.
Yep.
That was at one time, our state officials, their pay raises had to be approved by the voters. Well, one Halloween night, they went into the wee hours of the evening to give themselves a giant pay raise. Well, right after they did that, in the next election, about half of them got bounced. And you know what they did? They went, oh my God. It didn't wake them up. They spent the next 6 months figuring out this is never going to happen again. And they convinced all the new people up there to say, hey, you want a pay raise? We may never get one again because we're not worth anything. Let's change the law. We give ourselves the pay raise. The voters don't have any say in it. We give ourselves as much as we want. And that's the way it is now. So you think they're giving you a giant pick a finger? They are. Because that's what they do. That's what they do. This is nuts. And for the people, for our city council not to be worried, not about the health care. Yeah, health care went up. It went up for everybody. Why can't we afford it? Because the city didn't handle its money. Let's put the blame right where it is. If the retirement system's a problem, it's because the city didn't pay enough of their share into the retirement system. Both of those things are self-inflicted wounds. Let's talk about the fact that they won't stop spending even though we're broke. Paul's talking about raising our taxes, raising our fees. We may look at purple bags. They're talking about the cost of trash. Well, you're the people who put it in. So why aren't you worried about the $600,000 in pay raises? Do you really think anybody deserves a $33,000 pay raise? I'm not buying that crap. I'm not buying that. To keep this guy working, you got to give him a $33,000 pay raise. Let him go out and find a job for that amount of money. If he's working in City Hall and not for Elon Musk, it means he can't get a job getting that kind of money in a private sector. Okay? I'm sorry, but that's the reality. These people, and somebody told me, a person who shall remain nameless, that CFO we got was supposed to take 3 courses in New Bedford, but she only took 1. Never took the other 2. And then she came over here. So I don't know. You can't fix this government. You can only replace it, as they did in Athens, Tennessee. That's going to be my new favorite thing to talk about. Where the people but when did they do this? In 1946, the year after the war ended. They were still amped up. They were still ready to rock and roll. They were engaged in their government. They were pissed off. Good for them. Why don't the 40,000 voters who sat on their butts and didn't vote? Paul Coogan's gotten in 3 times and never had an election that was over 14,000 people. The purple bags. We're going to be getting it. And remember, this budget is only the beginning. If you re-elect him, wait till next year. You think you're getting hammered now? He's trying to put everything. He's like a little Dutch boy with his finger in a dike. He's running out of fingers. Yeah, but he's doing everything he can to try to make it as little as possible because he wants to get reelected. And I don't care who runs. I don't care who's running. I'm voting for anybody, except that there are a few city councils that were in the vote. And again, as CJ, you said it, but I didn't have a chance because we segued into this. But obviously, my condolences to Ricky Teeth on the passing of his mother. And, and I know that he'll be tied up this weekend with the funeral. So,
yes.
But, he's already done himself a service by voting against this budget. And I hope
6-3.
Yep.
6-3. The vote was sent back to the mayor, to the dictator, to the douchebag because of the salaries. The budget is not sustainable.
But that's not what Joe did said in her propaganda article, was it? Maybe she should get fired already from Fall River Reporter. Yeah. Well, that's true. We don't need a puppet. Well, because we know Paul does what he's told. He's the Joe Biden of Fall River, and
he lies through his teeth. Lie.
Yeah, lie. Yeah, that's right. He lies all the time. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know this. He misspent city money. I don't care. Everybody makes mistakes. No, you don't. You're a fiduciary.
And you reward thieves. You reward people who misappropriate city funds and city property. Okay? That's what you do, Paul. All you got to do is look at John Perry's severance. Look at Seth Aitken's severance. Okay? Look at what you did for Ken Pacheco. Oh, he's such a great guy. Give him a $15,000 pay raise. We had to spend the money anyway, so why send it out for bid?
Yeah, auto pen. Yeah, we got Paulie pen in this city. The Paulie pen.
You know, the sad part about it is we bring these things up all the time. Sometimes we're a little off. A little, not a lot, a little off. But 99.999% of the time, we're right on the money. And we're called liars. We're called tumblers. We're called misogynists.
Well, one thing they've never said, CJ, they've never said we were wrong about the healthcare numbers that are retirement. They just don't say anything about it. You know, when they got Mary Sahadi and they skewered her with the numbers that I sent them and told them to bring Gallagher up and have them blow her up, they blew her up. And the problem is they know that they're lying about the healthcare and the why. Well, do we have a problem paying? Yeah. They do, not the employees, and we have to pay 25%. We're not having a problem paying because we kept our money for healthcare. But the disgrace of those two buffoons, those two, listen, if they cut, Paul Hart and Brad Kilby are the two most disgusting, despicable excuses of Tammany Hall political hacks. They would vote for gas chambers to be installed in City Hall to take care of people that give Paul any problem. I'm sorry. If they sliced their scrotum open, took out their testicles, and put it on the edge of a razor blade, it'd look like 4 BBs rolling down a 4-lane highway. Okay? They don't have 1 ounce of spine between the two of them. And if they got a problem with that, they know my phone number. They know where I live. They can come and talk to me. They are gutless political hacks. They're not, and they're shameless about it. Shameless about it. To vote $600,000 worth of pay doesn't surprise me for Kilby. He voted for $1 million for a baseball field that virtually was never used and got plowed under when the city was strapped then. Remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Screw the goddamn taxpayer. We're building a baseball field for the kiddies. Yeah, and where is it now? Under the new school. And we built another baseball field, and you wanted AstroTurf on the freaking thing. You think I forgot that? You wanted to build Yankee Stadium because you don't give a shit about the taxpayers and their money. Because they're nuts. Joe Camaro, well, his brother got a $90,000 a year job. He's still paying back for that one. And I'm sure that there's a lot of other stuff going on behind the scenes, and that's the problem. But this is the thing. They think we forget. But listen, all the guys you guys on the show, you listen to this all the time, and we're bringing up, these are facts. I mean, we're not making Kenny Pacheco up. There he is. There's the headline from the Herald News. We didn't make that shit up. We didn't talk about, now they got it again. Here's the damn lint. There's the lint in the ducks. And that was before. Now we got more lint in the ducks. The ducks, we got more pollution. We got more mold. We got all kinds of crap. Nothing gets done, he gets a pay raise. He misspends money, he gets another pay raise. Well, 1946, Athens, Annalisa, that's it. Now I got my new one. We got to take over the government. We got to throw these people out.
Yeah.
We got to throw these people out.
No question about it. The problem is the apathy is so prevailing, so pervasive in this city. They wouldn't give a shit. They wouldn't care.
Yeah, but I mean, how in good conscience, CJ, can anybody look at that? How could those three wastes, but the two wastes sitting in a chair side by side, how can they look and look at this city. Oh, and say with the problems we're having in this city, no affordable housing, not even an attempt to do it. They're bullshit. They're full of shit. People are dying in this city, and they can't afford their rents. They the wages are nowhere, and these people are getting $18,000, $15,000, $33,000 pay raises. And I'm going to tell you something. This reminded me of something I meant to play the last show, because this is really good. You won't be able to see the audio, but you will be able to, I believe. You will be able to. You will be able to see. Here it is. Okay. I'm going to play this. This is on YouTube in case you want to check it out. I think it's on Facebook.com. But I got this thing. Somebody sent this to me, so I want you guys to listen to this. This is a New Bedford resident, Eric Johnson.
Name is Eric Johnson. My address is 1027 Chaffee Street. But my address used to be 122 Clifford Street, the neighborhood I grew up in that I can no longer afford to live in while I pay my child support or go through anything else in life that we go through. While rents increased for a tea that comes from Boston, with no aspect of looking at the people here and how to make sure that they have the jobs that the people from the other end of that line have to be able to afford to continue living in their city. Then my apartment on 994 Pleasant was sold to Ron Olivera, extreme developer, causing our housing courts with tons of problems. And sir, I'm getting to the point, ma'am.
But sir, we don't use someone's name in the chamber, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Thank you. The point is, this has been a wheel that's been rolling, and it's affecting people. I'm currently living in a camper in my buddy's driveway. I have things in 5 museums, including the Whaling Museum. I run the Historic Photo Club. I try to be the best person I ever can. I try to give people water when it's hot out here. I bounced at the Garden downtown for 4 years, and I met every single homeless person in every single state in this city. And I can tell you, they never deserve to be treated like giant pigeons, spending $100,000 to erect crooked cobblestones to hurt people's ankles, to assure that ambulances can't make it off our highway safety. And that is what I believe that a certain mayor, if I can't mention his name, thinks of our public. That's what I see happen when meters double, when we are no longer the #1 art city in Massachusetts. And that's just surrendered. It just happens to be happening. We don't know any of this, that it's going to happen. He apparently doesn't know it himself. You were there when I helped found the Friends of Brooklawn Park and everything like that. And look how that has worked for our city. In the same sense, the city is looking at things that are public. And I honestly think Mayor Mitchell hates the public. I think he does, because how else do you want to attack them? I'm public regardless of what's in my wallet right now. Public is public. There was someone in 1860 with a can downtown banging it, asking for a penny. And it's always going to be that way. You're not going to take that away from people. And then there's the people in this city downtown who have brought it up from being stagnated and dead and brought it to a point where it's a renaissance for us. This is a renaissance for local businesses, for people. And what happens during one of the most devastating pandemics in history, we get a raise of prices to drive out people's businesses, to drive out customers, and it all lines up perfectly with what's happening with this bid. That's how I see it as a citizen, and it's, what can we do? We can be here, we can show up, and we can tell you we don't stand for it, and we're not ever going to stand for it. We're not going to stand for selling downtown's history to the next person when we are.
There's a guy that's living in his buddies in a camper now because of the rents in New Bedford, and they're 100 times better than Fall River. That's the irony of that statement. Mitchell at least has built some affordable housing in New Bedford, and this guy obviously is into the, he's done things for the community. He's well known, obviously, but obviously he's got financial issues and stuff, and the rents drove him out of 2 different apartments. This is the problem. It's just Fall River in a microcosm. It's like this is happening all over to the regular people. In cities like Fall River and New Bedford, these quote-unquote gateway cities, we have the rich having a giant dump on everybody, and nobody will go to the polls and change it. And that's the problem. This is what you got to do. Paul Coogan has done absolutely nothing in 6 years to make your life more comfortable. He ran in his first term. He was going to cut taxes. He was going to cut taxes in the second term. You know, I haven't got a tax cut. I got a tax increase every single year like clockwork. He also said that we were not going to pay for Durfee. We're paying for Durfee. They didn't even let us vote on Diamond. Now what are they going to do? The council's going to say, oh, let's let the people decide how we want to pay for Diamond? No, screw you. You people wouldn't let us do it. Where were you when we had Diamond demanding that we put it on a ballot? Nowhere. This is why we've got to do what is necessary to change this government. I mean, you know, it's starting to get, the weather's breaking. It's time for the campaign season to start. I hope people who are running for office take it to the public, knock on doors, because I'll tell you what, we just cannot stand another 2 years of Paul Coogan or his puppeteers. Paul Coogan is merely the shell, but Paul has his own side business, giving all his friends jobs and pay raises. How a mayor in a city like this can put these kind of pay raises in a budget and not even bat an eye shows his insensitivity to the average.
Political payback. Political favors. Political favors. Ah! Pay off. Pay off. Corruption.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you see these stories all over. Remember we had some videos from Fall River, New Bedford, when we had those hearings on the affordable housing in the Flint.
Yeah.
We had people complaining. We had a retired school teacher who obviously doesn't make a really tiny pension. They got a decent pension. He got priced out of his apartment in New Bedford by market rate housing. So now if somebody with a decent pension can't afford it, how are people who are working daily above minimum wage jobs, sometimes 2 jobs, but they don't care. We still have not heard a word about affordable housing. Every once in a while, Paul, when he gets his feet put to the fire, he goes, oh, we're building a couple of units here. Yeah, really? Oh, we're going to build this. And then you find out it's not really affordable housing, it's market rate housing.
I look at Rhode Island, and some of these uppity, Newton-esque type communities, like Westerly, okay? Like Richmond, under Rhode Island law, have to have 10% affordable housing as part of their market, not public housing. Public housing is different. See, this is where Paul tries to divert. We have, and Linda does it too, we have plenty of affordable housing. No, we don't. We have plenty of public housing. There's a difference.
A big difference.
A big difference.
And there's a difference between public, we've said this ad nauseum, public housing, workforce housing, and affordable housing are 3 separate things, okay? They talk about workforce housing being affordable housing, but it isn't, because workforce housing has, just like public housing has, monetary limits. You have to make a certain amount of money or less than a certain amount of money to get into public housing. Okay, so that's housing for people who are on the lower spectrum of, they're poor. Workforce housing, unfortunately, the way politicians who don't give a shit, the way they created workforce housing was that they do it by geographical areas. So the area you're in, they build workforce housing. Well, they also have income limits. They have a low income. You must make at least X amount of dollars, and you can't make any more than X amount of dollars.
That's right.
Well, the problem is Fall River, virtually nobody in Fall River can afford workforce housing, because Fall River, the average per capita income is $31,000. But who's in our geographical area? Somerset, where they're making $81,000, not $31,000. $53,000 for a family, $81,000 over there. Then Seacock, that's 80-some thousand. Westport's 80-some thousand. Everything in our geographical area. So if you go look it up. I'm not lying. Look it up. Look at what they were demanding for the lowest income to get in and the highest income where you're not eligible. 98% of the people in Fall River who can't pay their rent can't even meet the threshold on the lowest part of their income. They don't make enough money to pay the lowest rent in workforce housing. This is what affordable housing is for. It's for people who've got a job and can't afford it. You know, this is why they had rent control in New York City. This is what Coogan is. And look, you were being very kind, CJ. You're in a good mood today. Very kind to say he was deflecting about housing. He's flat out lying about housing, and he knows it. He's flat out lying.
Right. And that's what happens. Okay? And then Paul justifies his lie. That's not what I said. I didn't. You prove I said that. I love it when he does that to the school committee. You prove I said that. That's not what I said. You prove I said that. And then he changes it just a little bit.
Well, they should get the tapes. That's all. Get the tapes. Well, we know what he said once when he said he wasn't reaching out to the GIC, and I had the email.
And you called him out on it.
We got that. Yeah, you're right, Anwich. It is. We've become, I think we're actually ahead of New York State now. I think we're number 2. In like the last stats I looked at, we were only behind California.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Massachusetts is absolutely, positively out of control. Absolutely out of control now. And this is why people were leaving Massachusetts by, 1,500 people a month were leaving. But there are people who can't leave. We have people on fixed incomes, retirees, who have had their house paid for years, decades, and now can't even afford to pay their taxes. And they're looking at having to take a reverse mortgage and lose their house and not be able to leave their house to anybody, probably. Or they can't leave because if they sell their house here, the prices of housing have gone up so much. How are they going to relocate? Where are they going to go? Move to Florida? It's going to cost them $20,000 to move to Florida and move all their stuff. And then they're going to go down there and they're going to pay more than they got for their house up here for a house. So they can't do it. Right. I mean, people are trapped here. They're trapped. They can't get out of this place. And then we got Maura Healey spending money like, who cares? That's more money for me, and then you got the, Michelle Wu's of the world yelling around, worried about masks on ICE agents. Well, this is one of the reasons we don't have a lot of businesses, because we don't have a lot of people working and people don't have money. It's not a difficult equation to look at. When did we have a whole bunch of businesses in Fall River? There wasn't a storefront empty on Pleasant Street. There wasn't a storefront, and you remember this, CJ, on South Main Street. Why? The mills were running. Everybody had a job. Everybody had a job. Maybe it wasn't the greatest job in the world, but they had a paycheck.
That's right.
And they could go there and buy things. And we had a business on every corner. Soon as they look at it's not about market rate housing is going to save the city. No, people with jobs are going to save the city. Get these people trained to get jobs like they did in Rhode Island when they had that thing with electric boat. They had a contractor they taught a whole bunch of people how to weld, and they went up there and got high-paying jobs.
And they're still doing that.
And they're still doing it. But not Fall River. They're saying, "Well, build market rate housing." It's horrifying in Massachusetts. I keep telling you guys, drive down County Street, go by O'Gills, and look at those 2 edifices to this insanity that they just built. I've heard of you've heard of, duplexes. This is a triplex, I guess. There's 3 separate doorways to a unit in a house. So apparently there's 3, I don't know what they're going to call them, condos, condominiums, I don't know, condoms, I don't care what they call them. But look at them. Look at them closely. It's in the parking lot of O'Gills, which was the size of a postage stamp. Now they got these 3 giant buildings, one behind the other. You walk out the front door of whatever these things are going to be, and you're on the sidewalk of Earl Street. You walk out your back door, you got about 5 feet till the end of the property line. Who the hell is going to live there? You think somebody's going to come down from Newton to move into a place in that, on County Street, across from an auto body shop and businesses, and have no parking, and have a yard? If you stuck a grill in there, you couldn't get out of the yard. I mean, this is, I don't know what they think. What are they going to do? I can tell you what they're going to do. This is going to be Detroit. You know what's going to happen to all these places? They're either going to go belly up, or they're all going to become, we are going to become what they did before. There's going to be ads all over every highway in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, saying, move to Fall River. We got plenty of public housing. They're going to turn it all into public housing, some kind of subsidized housing. And we're going to get all of the people that we used to get from everywhere.
It's always got to be something. Well, another day, another $6.48.
Are you kidding? Paul's going to take $6.47 out of that baby.
I know. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on
Remember our
Monday.
veterans.
Oh, by the way, Day of Portugal weekend, down at the gates of the city. Watch out for traffic. Supposedly there's going to be shuttles running there. So use the shuttles if they're available. Have a great weekend. Enjoy.